So if you are entering the room, we're going to give people 2 to 3 minutes to just enter at their own, at their own pace. I know it's middle of the day, so people may be ending meetings and coming back from lunch. We did have quite a few people sign up for this today, which I was really excited about. So if you are in the room and you are waiting, we would love to hear from you, where you're joining from. Who do you serve? Who are your favorite clients to work with? And what do you help them with? So if you would plug that into the chat, we will start kind of getting to know who's in here. And as you start thinking about this, this is going to be helpful for what we talk about over the next hour or so.
I see a lot of amazing people have joined us too, Hillary. So we have a star-studded audience here today.
Yes, we do. I see some familiar names as well. Barry, Joanne, Tim Brown. This is great.
Yeah, some fantastic names there. That's great.
All right, I'm going to give it just 30 more seconds or so. So if you just joined, please feel free to share in the chat where you're joining us from, who do you serve, and what do you help them with? And again, this is going to be helpful for you to start thinking about as we dive in today. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Derrick, are you able to monitor the chat for a second while I just introduce us?
Yeah. Let me click on the chat here. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, no messages yet that I see, but
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm going to jump in. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We're so excited that you're here. You are here for Close More 1 million plus clients in 2026, the storytelling systems that top advisors use to win premium clients without pitching. Derrick and I collaborated on this a couple months ago when we met in person at a conference. And when I was posting about this, over the past few days, we realized that people have a lot of thoughts about how you introduce yourself and how you win clients. So we're excited to dive into some of those today. So super quick introduction. My name is Hillary Gale. I am the founder of Moneta Copy. We're a marketing agency. We help niche finance pros like advisors, CPAs, and financial coaches build online visibility through story-driven marketing. So we really help advisors in particular communicate more humanly to better connect with the humans that they love to work with. Derrick, I'll let you introduce yourself really quickly if you would like to.
Sure. Former top financial advisor, sold my business about 5 years ago. And I began to get asked by advisors, hey, Derrick, it seemed like you were able to more easily attract high net worth clients. What was your secret? And so I took what was successful for me, made it into an easy to implement framework. And that's what I coach and speak on today.
Lovely. So what we're going to cover today is some of your conversation frameworks, Derrick. And then I'm going to share, once you get people kind of hooked in with your conversations and they're really interested in working with you, I'm going to show you how you can back up the conversations with proof and the actual work you've done with clients up to this point. We're going to go through some real scenarios. I'm going to put Derrick in the hot seat a little bit as we go over some Q&As, and then we'll have time for live Q&A at the end as well. Now, Derrick, like I mentioned at the beginning, as I was posting about this upcoming session earlier this week, we realized we poked a few bears. People have a lot of thoughts about how they talk about what they do when they're introducing themselves. So I kind of wanted to start with what this session is not about, if that makes sense. Do you?
Yeah. So basically what it's not about is no longer having people's eyes glaze over when they ask you what you do for a living and you reply whatever you say, and they think in their mind you are like everybody else. That's what we don't want to have happen. That's the enemy of this entire process. And so what I would say, Hillary, right now we have a problem. And the problem is so many financial advisors feel overlooked by the high net worth prospects they want to attract. And I know that feeling because that was my problem as well as a financial advisor. I would cringe walking into social settings, hoping people would not ask me, what do you do? Because when I said financial advisor, they started to walk backwards. They clutch their wallet, their purse. They mutter something like, I have enough insurance already. It was terrible. But I discovered something that changed that, and I began to easily attract exactly the clients I wanted. And so, in our time together today, I'm going to share that formula that any advisor can apply, and I believe will start having success pretty quickly.
Okay, well, first question for you is why do you think when people hear the term I'm a financial advisor or somebody says that, they start to back away a little bit?
Well, one of the things that we know is when you tell someone something they don't understand, it forces them to burn brain cells to figure out what it is. So, for example, if I say to someone, I'm a financial advisor, automatically, without me knowing it, there's a mental checklist they go through. Oh, my mom got ripped off by a financial advisor. Financial advisors are expensive. You have to have a lot of money to work with an advisor. All I said were two words, financial advisor. They're going through a checklist of all that means, or you just sell a bunch of mutual funds that have loads on them, and that's what you're fighting against. So, Hillary, let me tell you a quick story. And I want to invite all of our advisors to picture yourselves in this scenario. Okay. You're at a social event in your local community. You've got your favorite beverage in your hand. It's perfect for the holidays. And as you mingle around the room, a man approaches you and he asks, hey, what do you do for a living? And you reply, well, I'm a financial advisor. He says, oh, okay. And you say, well, what do you do? And he says, I'm a personal trainer. I design custom tailored workout and eating plans so people can get into shape. And you might ask a few other questions and carry on the conversation a bit. And then you mingle around the room. And then later on in the evening, a woman approaches you and she says, hey, what do you do for a living? And you reply, oh, I'm a financial advisor. And she says, oh, okay. And you ask, well, what do you do? And she says, you know how so many business owners and professionals, they always put everybody else's needs above their own, so their health takes a back seat? We design custom tailored workout and eating plans so they can not only feel good, they can look great, and one day they can be the cool grandparent that has the energy to chase their grandkids across the floor. We specialize in workout and eating plans for busy professionals. Now pause. Let's say that 1 week goes by and you look in the mirror and you say to yourself, I think I need a personal trainer. Which personal trainer are you going to call? The man or the woman?
You call a woman.
Most advisors say the woman. And Hillary, why would you call the woman?
Well, I suppose because you started with a question. And I was in the question. I'm a busy, very busy business owner.
Yeah. And so you related to that. Often people will say, I want to be the cool grandparent that can chase their kids across the floor. And what happened is, in her example, is she connected with an instantly relatable pain point. Okay, so let me ask all of our advisors two questions. And I can't see you, but even in the comments, you could tell me your response. So here is comment number one. You know how when you take your car to the mechanic, it often feels like you're getting taken advantage of or overcharged? Most people would say, yeah, I get that. Okay, so here is statement number two. Picture two teenage parents of two teenage daughters, and the moms are talking to each other. And one mom says to the other mom, you know how it feels like when you talk to your daughter and everything you say goes in one ear and right out the other, and she gives you the eye roll? Most moms would chuckle like you did, Hillary, and say, yeah. You see, that's an example of connecting with an instantly relatable pain point. And so if you want to stand out in social settings, most advisors make the fatal mistake of trying to oversell themselves, or they sell their features and benefits of their products and services, and they look like a commoditized person. But when you can connect with an instantly relatable pain point that the person's already thinking about and you articulate it, they say to themselves, oh my gosh, this person gets me, they understand me. And one of the things that I learned, this was about a month ago, if you follow me on LinkedIn, I had an advisor reach out to me and say, Derrick, I want to tell you this story because just by reading one of my LinkedIn posts about how to connect with people in social settings, he picked up his largest client ever, a $7 million account. And so what I'm going to tell you today, there's no theory, there's no, I wonder if this will work, try it. I'm only going to share with you what is proven to work with top 1% advisors that I'm teaching them right now to better connect. I like to say, if you want a business that's booming, focus on the human.
I really like that. You've shared a few stories with me over the weeks of advisors that have had really, I think, surprising interactions when they've started to use this kind of conversational framework. So I'm hoping you'll share a couple of those with us today. One thing I want to go back to is, the example you gave about the mom, and you said, how moms, they talk to their teenage daughters. I have a 3-year-old. I can relate to this immediately. He's not a teenager yet, but it's exactly, I get the eye rolls and the okay, fine. And what struck me about that example is that I don't even know what she does yet, but I am interested because I can relate.
Yeah, that's the key. And one thing to realize is that when it comes to prospects and working with ideal clients, you're playing a game. I mean, how many of you here like to play pickleball or you like to play board games? When you know the rules of the game, the likelihood of you winning goes up dramatically. If you want to attract high net worth prospects in that first initial impression, and then in your visit with them, and by the way, I call them visits and not meetings. A meeting you have with your proctologist, it can feel cold, not very friendly, but a visit is warm and inviting. Let's have a visit together. It sounds very non-threatening. And when you work with higher net worth prospects, words equal wealth. You're creating an experience for them. So what I would tell you is, when you think about what you do for a living, I call this my how framework. Okay. So one of the things that people often think about is it often sounds like a multi-level marketing pitch, or you sound so rehearsed. And what I would tell you is, and it takes some practice here, but one of the principles I talk about is communicate like you cook a brisket. Now, I live here in Texas. I live here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we love our barbecue. My favorite is brisket. Now, how do they cook a brisket, Hillary? Low and slow. Low and slow. And what often happens is when people are in communication, high stakes moments, you see this where someone gets called on by surprise. They're not expecting to be asked a question. What happens? Their voice goes higher and they talk faster. And they sound immediately nervous and unsure of themselves, less confident. And so what I tell people is, when you're asked, what do you do for a living? You just want to take a little quick breath and go a little lower and a little bit slower. I just say, go brisket. And you want to say something like this, based on who you serve. Hillary, you know how so many people, they worry about running out of money in retirement? We help them fix that. Period. That is the first line of the how framework. So the point here is, the easy way to apply this is when you're off this webinar, which, by the way, Hillary, thanks for doing this. This is a valuable service you're giving everybody here today. I call this the 5 and 5 exercise. So you want to look at your 5 most recent clients and then your 5 favorite clients. Now, the 5 recent clients does 2 things. First of all, it lets you, as the business owner, step back and, as the CEO of your business, evaluate, who am I currently attracting to my firm? Typically, about 50% of advisors say, Derrick, I don't even like the people I'm bringing on right now, but I didn't know it. I was so busy. People are just coming in. So it's a chance to really assess, do I like, and are these people a fit for who I want? But you want to ask yourself, what was the problem that those clients came to you to ask for your help to solve? Okay. And then you want to do the same exercise with your 5 favorite. And why that's important is, these are the people that when you see their name on your calendar, you smile. They love you. They take your advice. You probably socialize with them outside the office. And so all these people, you want to look and see what the common threads are of what problem did they come to help you solve. So you want to look at a couple things here, the problem, but also you want to look at what emotion were they feeling when they came to you? Were they frustrated? Were they irritated, uncertain, unconfident? And then you want to ask yourself, as best as you can, look at the threads here. How do they feel now that they're working with you? Confident, assured, optimistic. You see, those 3 blocks of words we then lay into the how framework. So for example, one of my coaching clients, we identified that he works really well with high earning, stressed out corporate professionals who don't enjoy their life right now.
Mm.
So when someone asks, hey, what do you do for a living? You know how high earning corporate professionals are often stressed out and really don't enjoy their lives? We help them fix that.
Mm.
You see, that is an instantly relatable pain point that someone says, yeah, I get that.
Mm.
Or let's say, and this is another really good example I'll share with you real quick. I was speaking at an event about a month or so ago, and an advisor had called me a few weeks earlier and was very frustrated. And he said, Derrick, I'm frustrated. My 24-year-old associate advisor, who I wanted to bring in high net worth prospects, is struggling. She's just having no success. Would you do a coaching call with her? And so I talked with her and I asked her, tell me what's happening when you're interacting in these social settings. And she said, well, Derrick, it's like when I talk to these people, I can read their mind and they're thinking, are you even old enough to drive? And she feels judged, right? She's 24 years old. And what happens is she says, I'm a financial advisor. Here's my experience. Here's my CFP. And you can tell all these people know you're so young. How much experience do you really have? So I taught her a couple things and we did a conversational exercise. And here's what she said and the results that she got. So in the next interaction she had, she was at a social event primarily for business owners and founders, and we practiced what to say. So when a person, she's 24, I think this guy was about 60, walked up, hey, what do you do for a living? And she said, you know how so many busy business owners and founders, what keeps them awake at night is the thought of passing their business or their money to their kids, and their kids squander the whole thing. We help them fix that. Mm. And she said the guy's eyes got as big as saucers. She said, yeah, one of the things we do is we train the kids so they're ready to take on the business and inherit this money. And by the way, you might be thinking, what am I, 20 years old? I'm actually 24. And the reason they pursued me so hard at the firm was I connect with people's kids, and clients love that and they love our firm. Mm. That person became a client the following week. And here's what we discovered, two big things. First of all, the 24-year-old took her youth and inexperience and made it her greatest asset by connecting with the kids of higher net worth people. Number two, it taught the owner of the practice, don't assume that the 24-year-old's best role is to attract the high net worth person. Sometimes going through their kids as a value add is a way to magnetically attract who you want. So I would just tell, especially next gen advisors right now, don't let your age, you may be thinking what they're thinking, but call it out. It's important to call out and say, you know what, when I talk to people, it just feels like people are wondering, am I even old enough to invest? Mm-hmm. And when you call out what a concern is you think people are thinking, it neutralizes it and elevates your status in their eyes.
Mm. So it sounds to me like there's a lot of work that goes into figuring out the right statement for you. It's not just, oh, I help retirees, and so I'm going to create a statement out of that. You really have to think about what are my strengths, what are my constraints, what objections do people already have to working with me, and how can I kind of bring all of this into this conversational messaging that I'm creating?
Yeah, so there's two ways. So let's say that when you look at your 5 and 5, you identify, okay, a lot of these people are worried about running out of money in retirement, or they make really good money, but they're fearful of making one wrong decision and screwing the whole thing up. Mm-hmm. Or they worry about, am I going to have the money I want to pass on to my kids? I mean, whatever their unique concerns are, you want to be very, very specific. So many people think I need to go wide, but the more narrow you are, the more attractive you become. And let me give you a quick story. Let's say that you needed to have a delicate medical procedure done on your shoulder. Would your first inclination be, I'm going to go to my general practitioner who knows a little bit about a lot? Or would you think, I want to go to the shoulder specialist who all they work on are shoulders?
Shoulder specialist.
And so what would you assume then before calling the specialist that is in place? If today, let's say, Tuesday at 2:30 Central Time, would you expect to be able to get in tomorrow morning first thing for the specialist if you call today? Mm-mm. No. Would you expect, now based on the insurance, it can vary, would you expect to pay more or less to see a specialist?
More.
Yeah. And then when you go to see the specialist, would your expectation be, I'm just going to listen to what they say, but I'm going to do the surgery myself? Or I'm going in to listen to every word they say, and I'm going to probably implement exactly what they say to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the point is, the third level of the you know how framework is stating we specialize in. So let me tell you, this is what I used for myself that was very successful. But each advisor here should go through the exercise and determine what it is for you, whether it's the clients you currently serve or you realize I want to work with another type of client. You can craft the you know how framework to that. But this is how it would sound like for me. Hey, so Derrick, what do you do for a living? Hillary, you know how so many people and by the way, watch my tone and my pace of how I say this. It's very you want to sound like you're the concerned doctor that is giving them the diagnosis because you're so concerned about their well-being financially. You know how so many people they worry about running out of money in retirement? Well, we help them fix that. Through our 5-step financial planning process, we custom tailor a plan that's unique for them so they no longer have to worry about running out of money and they can finally feel confident.
Mm-hmm.
We specialize in retirement income planning. Pause. That's it. And so the point is when you change your pacing, you talk a little bit lower and a little bit slower, you come across as highly, highly empathetic and caring. There's no salesishness to it. There's simply concern over here's what we do. And it makes you automatically more attractive. And most people will then say, now tell me more about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the goal.
Mm-hmm. The goal is to invite the conversation in.
Invite the conversation. Yes.
Now, we had a lot of comments earlier this week around, isn't this gimmicky? Doesn't this make people back away even faster? Am I coming across as just more salesy than I want to? How do you address that?
Yeah. Well, and again, anytime you try something new, it can feel that way. But what I would tell people is when you tell someone something new, they don't always know what to do. But when you tell someone something true, it draws them closer to you. So, for example, if I were to make a general phrase to someone and say, doesn't it feel like the world is just out of control right now? As I slightly nod my head, most people would say, yeah, it does. Well, automatically there's a connection. This person is thinking what I'm thinking. So the point is, when you walk into a room, knowing who is it that you best serve, and this comes down to 2 questions. First of all, do you want to have a unique specialty? I want to focus only on stressed out, highly paid corporate executives, or is your focus broader? You know how so many people worry about running out of money in retirement? Well, that is a unique concern people instantly relate to, but affects a wider swath of people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I want to work with teachers, for example, I'm not going to answer, we specialize in corporate executives. So you want to figure out who is it that you want. What I find though is there's a psychological piece to this, and that is when you tell someone your specialty, you automatically become more attractive because you have this unique set of knowledge. And often people try to opt into, well, that's really not my exact concern, but could I still work with you? Or it reserves space in their brain so that when they see someone or talk to someone with your concern, they remember, oh yeah, you gave me that exact scenario and I want to think about you. So it's not gimmicky at all. I mean, here are the choices. If someone asks you, what do you do? And you say, I'm a financial advisor, I'm a wealth planner, I'm a dream funder, whatever creative name you come up with, you know you're going to be compared to everybody else. And the door is going to close because people will assumptively burn their brain cells to figure out you're like everybody else. And so the only best option you have is the you know how statement. And it can be very simple. You could even abbreviate it to say, so many people struggle with, they make good money, but they don't know what to do with it. We help them fix that. Great. The key is just have a relatable problem. I like to say when you own a problem, you own your success. And if I had to summarize all of this, if you want to make it rain, connect with pain.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to make it rain, connect with pain. Nobody cares about the features and benefits of the annuity or the insurance or the investment you've got. Those are sort of table stakes. But when people feel like they're heard and seen and validated, and they say in their minds, this person gets me, that's priceless.
Mm. I have so many questions. I'm trying to figure out which one to ask first. I want to go back to what you said about, let's say you serve teachers, and
Mhm.
maybe you're in front of someone and you know that they're probably not a teacher, but you still want to talk about the specialty because they probably know teachers. And you can say something like, you know how a lot of teachers, they're in it for the love of the work that they do, but when it comes to money, they're worried about how they're going to retire, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I like to call that makes you so referable. When you
Yes.
solve a specific problem for a specific person, you become so instantly referable. There are actually several advisors that I am friends with and acquainted with through LinkedIn mostly. Their niche is so specific. I have referred people to them, even though I've never worked with them personally, because I just know that they can help my friends and family. One in particular comes to mind, a software sales advisor, and my sister-in-law is a software salesperson, and so I referred her to him because I just know he can help her with that fluctuating income that she earns on
Right.
commissions and things like that. So I just wanted to kind of call that out because I think one question that I've had when I've heard you talk about this before is, can I only use this when I know I'm talking to someone who could potentially become a client? Or do I use this conversational framework kind of across the board?
Yeah, so then this is where there's a bit of finesse. And this is where, as you determine what your you know how statement is, that first line, it's understanding how specific do you want to be. There are a number of advisors that I coach that like to have a specialty, but they also serve another audience as well.
Mm,
So, for example, they might serve, teachers where you know how so many teachers they care more about their students than they do about their own retirement. We help them fix that.
mm,
It's something that's easily relatable, or there might be, hey, we specialize in hospital executives who are within 2 years of retirement, but then that's our unique niche. But broadly, we focus on this one pain point, which is running out of money in retirement.
mm,
So it depends on how you want to do that. If you want to be very, very specific, then you know that as you're talking to many people, you're simply educating them on who you want them to think of to refer to you. If you're talking to a teacher who clearly is not a stressed out corporate executive and you only want to work with stressed out corporate executives, you can say to the teacher, yeah, tell me if this makes sense. The person that we specialize in is that corporate executive. They make good money, but they're stressed out. Do you know anybody like that?
mm,
Yeah. Well, when you think of them, think of us.
mm,
Okay. So what you've done is you've positioned who you want to work with in the mind of someone you don't want to work with who might know someone that wants to work with you. Does that
mm,
make sense?
mhm.
But I
It,
would just tell you people, hold that, especially the holidays, that this is like social time on steroids.
mm,
There's the unexpected holiday parties. We had a situation recently where we did this exercise with the advisors in this firm, and I had the whole staff come as well. And I asked the staff members, the assistants, the receptionists, the assistants, the advisors, how many of you get asked, what do you do for a living? All their hands went up. And I said, well, what do you say when someone asks you that? And they said, well, I'm an assistant to Susan Smith over here. And I said, how do people respond? And well, their eyes roll back in their head. They walk backwards. That the same kind of response. And so we crafted a you know how framework for the staff. So crazy story. So I'm at this event in Pennsylvania about a year ago. This was on a Thursday. Well, the following Tuesday, I get a call from the owner of the firm that says, Derrick, you're not going to believe this. One of the ladies who you practice the you know how framework with, one of the assistants, was at a birthday party on Saturday, and someone asked her, what do you do? And she remembered feeling kind of nervous. I just got to say what Derrick said to say. And she said it and picked up a $3 million lead that became a client the following week, all
mm,
before the birthday cake was served at the birthday party. And so the uniqueness of that is When prospects hear staff talk about the advisor and the problem the advisor solves, it gives them even more credibility. They expect the advisor to have their act together, but when a staff member says something, it's like, wow, they really know what they're talking about. So it's not just for advisors, it's for everybody. But I would just tell people, always just talk about that problem.
Mm-hmm.
You're always describing a painful problem people have, and people love problems. I mean, when there's a problem, they want a solution to it. If you start off with the solution, it's not as attractive as starting off with the problem.
Okay. I have one more question for you about this because I know that some people earlier this week, they were talking about, sounding scripted, not my thing. I feel like that just, people, they run away instead of back away, right? If I sound scripted. I
Sure.
know for me, I would have to practice this in the mirror like a million times before I felt comfortable using it. Do you have any thoughts about that?
So think about this. One of the people I had on my podcast many years ago was one of the creators of when you go to Chick-fil-A, what do they typically say when you leave or when you place an order? They say, "My pleasure." They don't say,
Mhm.
and
Like I
so,
haven't been to Chick-fil-A in a while.
okay, well, we need to change that, Hillary. So one of the things that they talked about was it took quite a while to change the culture for people to say, "My pleasure." And so, what I'm suggesting is not always the easiest path, but what you know is if you say financial advisor, you know the response you're going to get. So, if you want to keep going down that path and banging your head against the wall and just getting bruised on your forehead over and over again, do that. But if you want to do something different, the key here is just to practice and really get it tight. You know how is how it starts, and then insert who you serve, struggles with, worries about, keeps them awake at night about, and then insert that concern. We help them fix that.
Mm,
And you can go into the second part of here's kind of the formula, here's the process you follow of what you do, and then we specialize in. And the more you say it, it doesn't come across as scripted at all. I mean, and I'll even practice it, putting in some little bit of ums and kind of changing my pitch a little bit. But the key is that's the moment that opens the door or closes the door. What I learned was, and I got so serious about this, that if I ever said I'm a financial advisor, I would have to not eat my next meal. That was how I had to train myself. And with my team, I would give them $5 every time they told me, "Hey, Derrick, I got asked what I did. Here's what I said." Boom, $5. The goal was to incentivize a change in behavior because it will feel different. Your natural inclination is financial advisor. But when you go into how, and you just want to sound concerned. So many people, they worry about running out of money in retirement. As you slightly nod your head, we help them fix that. So
mm,
you're like the doctor talking to the patient. Yeah.
mhm. I'm just going to quickly workshop kind of what I'm thinking about. I'm going to apply it to my own situation and see what you think because I've talked to you about this before. I can imagine how awkward it would feel for me to go to like I'm about to join my town's Rotary Club. My dad's been trying to get me to join
Yeah, good,
ever
good.
since I started a business. So I'm starting this week actually. And I don't want to walk in there and be talking to everybody and say, how financial advisors struggle with this because I can't assume that everybody in there is a financial advisor and that they'll know, right? But I'm feeling like I could start with something like, how a lot of business owners know that they have to market their business, but that's the last thing on their plate. They're serving clients first, things like that. We help financial advisors ensure that that's taken care of or something like that.
Good, good. So a question I would ask you, Hillary, just live on the spot here, is in that moment, would you ever be open to working additionally with other people than financial advisors, like possibly other service providers, or do you want to stay only financial advisors?
That's a really good question.
Okay.
I would say that there's some periphery there. We work with
Mm.
finance adjacent industries. Like I've worked with real estate agents. I've worked with property and casualty insurance agents because they're related to finance. But I have no interest in having my team work on a flooring business. That's just not
Sure,
our
sure.
wheelhouse, right?
Yeah. So again, when you think about this, the goal is the least amount of words wins.
Yeah.
And what can you say that's instantly relatable? So something I might say would be, Hillary, what do you do? You know how financial advisors, they hate to market? We help them fix that.
Mm, mhm,
Oh, okay. They hate to market themselves. Yeah, we
mhm,
we help fix that. Oh,
mhm,
okay. I mean, it's so simple, but it's immediate in terms of, okay, you help advisors who don't like to market themselves, you fix that.
mhm,
That's it. So
mhm,
the goal is to pique the interest. It's not to state all three problems, not to give the full-blown deal. It's just pick one instantly relatable problem that the average person, I like to say the average third grader, could understand quickly and be able to say, oh, okay, I get what you do.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Okay, I love that. So Derrick, I'm going to switch back to our slides here really quick. I'm going to talk about, once you get somebody in the door and they're interested, here's kind of a surefire way to back up your words. Say, okay, so this is what we do. Now, this is how we do it in a way that's still very relatable and human. And if you have any questions as I'm going through this, please interrupt me because I want to absolutely answer those. Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, so
Right.
case studies are my absolute favorite thing to work on right now. I'm actually working with 3 different advisor teams right now on building out their case study library because they do such a good job of explaining exactly what advisors do without getting that eyes glazed over. I don't want to hear about, these strategies. I have no idea what you're talking about. I just want to know, what problem did this person have? How did you help them? Where are they now? And so case studies are the way to really do that. So I have some examples here of case studies that I wrote earlier this year for an advisor team. And I just wanted to bring them up as kind of examples of what you should do when you're thinking about case studies. In all 4 of these case studies, we have a title here that is transformational. It shows the transformation. It may not directly call out what was that person worried about at first, but it kind of alludes to it. So this one here, I mean, it uses the word transforming in the title, transforming an entire family's financial future. You can almost imagine the concern here was they had, inheritance and legacy issues. They had a lot of wealth that was going to be passing down. This advisor team ended up working with, I think, 5 different family households within the same family across 4 generations to really smooth that process out. This one here, from successful doctor to world traveler, there's a really clear desire here that a lot of people can relate to. A lot of people want to leave their demanding careers so that they can go travel the world and not worry about running out of money. So having these case studies here in the language, the desires and the pain points that your clients are actually feeling is really the key here. So I wanted to put together just a really quick checklist for the advisors who are here when you're thinking about case studies, starting with a relatable problem in the title, really, really important. And then I wanted to give a closer look inside an actual case study here so we can go over these 3 other items of the checklist. Number 1 is specific numbers in case studies are really, really powerful. I actually hate to see case studies that don't have specific numbers in them because then people can't see themselves in that situation. And the other thing that this does here is when you're listing specific numbers, you're subtly indicating the caliber of clients that you like to work with. So you don't have, the clients coming to you who have $100,000 in their retirement account and want help. What can I do with this? You have the people who have, you're attracting the people who have a $10.5 million net worth, have $8.9 million invested, and you're kind of filtering out those lower clients that you're just not best set up to serve here. So a lot of people, they worry, okay, if I use specific numbers, is that going to cause compliance to have a stroke? And the answer is no. I have worked with so many different compliance departments over the years, and as long as you're not promising results, it's really okay to use specific numbers to ground a story, and that's really important for your prospects to see.
Yeah.
Then the strategy section, this is where I see most advisors kind of trip up, and I'm going to go to my next slide here, but then I'll come back. The strategy section it shows what you did and why it mattered. And I've blurred out this particular client's name for privacy's sake, but This is where a lot of advisors get stuck because they want to get really in the weeds here. They want to share the little known technical, complicated strategies. And you have to realize that people who are reading your case studies, where they are in their journey of deciding to work with you, they don't want to hear about the complexities yet, the technicalities yet. They want to know that you know your stuff, but you still want to keep it really human, really high level, really problem based. So I am going to send out the slides and the replay for this after our session today. So if people want to go through and see an example of, this is how we talk about our solutions in a way that the average Joe can still understand, then that's absolutely going to be there for them. And then finally, you want to have a real outcome there, not hypothetical, not dressed up to look perfect. In your real outcomes, where she is now, if your client is still struggling with something, it's okay to acknowledge that. People want to see that these are real stories and they're very human. And so I just wanted to share that because not only can these live on something like your website where, any browsers can just click on them and read them to learn more about what you do, but these can also be really powerful tools during discovery calls and in, onboarding packets and things like that. When people come to you with a specific situation that you've helped others with before, you can actually hand a physical copy of this to them and say, this is how we helped somebody just like you. So Derrick, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about this before we kind of move into live Q&A.
Well, I think it makes sense. I mean, one of the points you made there about putting real life numbers in, there's two pieces there. There's the scannability of any document. When people read things, they scan them. They typically rarely read word for word in every line. And so numbers well placed, a bolded word well placed, can lead people through an email or a document or a case study in a rather enjoyable way. But if it's all heavy paragraphs, unlike what yours is, it's very scannable. That to me is the key, because most people, whether it was math in the third grade or geometry in the seventh grade, a lot of people had bad math experiences. And so when they see numbers, they shut down. It's like, oh, so when you make it inviting and part of a bigger story, that to me is really the key.
Absolutely. There's one final thing I want to do with you, Derrick, a little game. You and I are each going to come up with the top of our head. What are the biggest mistakes that advisors make in these scenarios?
Okay.
Do you have one?
Okay, just so pick a scenario.
Pick a scenario. What's the biggest mistake that somebody can make?
Well, I think one of the biggest is they don't recognize that people are coming to you with a problem to solve. They're typically not coming to you because you have access to this particular stock or this particular bond or an investment. Rarely, I would say never in 25 years as an advisor did someone call and say, hey, do you have this exact investment available? I want to buy that. Nobody. All they cared about was, did I understand their problems and empathize with their situation? And then I gave them options. And typically I said, yeah, whichever one you think is best. And we matched it to their risk tolerance. And from a fiduciary standpoint, they were fine. So I would just tell people, don't sell based on the product and services, features and benefits. Instead, sell based on, hey, I know you have this problem. Here's a solution to that problem. One thing we know, I joke about this, but everybody has a favorite radio station, which is WIIFM, which stands for What's in It for Me. And when you play to that, some people may want more detail, some people want less. But a big mistake too is when busy, successful people come to you, sometimes you think, well, I need to over spreadsheet, over PowerPoint, overwhelm them with knowledge. What we find is people who have complicated lives want professionals who simplify their life.
Well, mine is very related, Derrick. I have found in a lot, one client in particular is coming to mind, clients that I've worked with. He really wants his marketing copy and content to share what an expert he is and this deep technical knowledge that he has. He says, I know my clients care about this. I know that they care, that I know what I'm doing. And that may be true in a sense, but it's not the first thing that they care about. The first thing that they care about is, can he help them solve a specific problem? And that has a lot more to do with trust and relatability. The technical knowledge and the technical expertise, for better or worse, it's almost assumed at the beginning of conversations.
Yeah.
And you can demonstrate that the deeper into conversations you get. But when you're marketing and when you're having these early conversations with prospects and discovery calls and leads, you really, really need to focus on that human relatability, that trust, that empathy. All of those things are so much more important.
I love that. And, it's interesting because one of the things I find, so many advisors feel like, well, I need to compare myself to other people. And I always encourage advisors to have a specific story in mind they can share. One of the things, you think about talk radio or these, old, TV shows where they would have more of the scandalous issues that come up. People love to watch other people's problems. And one of the things that we know is prospects love to hear about other clients you have helped in their same situation. So it's encouraging to think about, have your how framework, and then be able to say, hey, let me share a quick story with you. I'm making this up. We had a couple come in the office recently, and one of their biggest concerns was, we're making a lot of money, and on the outside, people think we're very successful, but we are nervous that if we make one wrong decision, we could screw this whole thing up.
Mm-hmm.
And so we help them with that. And so we walk alongside them, so helping them make more and more money and look even more and more successful. But we know that they want to have a plan they're confident in, that one wrong decision is not going to sink what they've worked hard to build. Yeah, that's what I want. So I call that the third party story. When you can tell a third party story with, keep the names out, but prospects love to know, what is your recent and relevant experience solving their unique problem.
And you can even have a deliverable, right, that you can put in their hands and show them. It's so funny. This particular client these case studies came from, they had 5 case studies. The one I left out was for these clients that were 2 PhDs. They were highly analytical. Attention to detail was very important for them. And so they wanted to optimize every single point of their finances. So that just popped into my mind as you were talking about that. Some people really do care about that. Is one wrong move going to derail everything? This is how we helped this couple make sure nothing was left out of the picture.
I love that. And, one of the things I find too, and this sounds so basic, but keep in mind, you're working with humans. And so when people feel understood, and one of the best ways is to ask, hey, this may sound like a crazy question, Hillary, but how would you like me to communicate with both of you? Do you like highly, highly detailed things on a scale of 1 to 10? Or do you want just more conversational and give people a scale of 1 to 10? That way people can think in scales. It lets them assign values very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That's about a 1 for me. Okay. Well, then you can kind of log that and know how to communicate with each client individually so they feel a unique customer experience just for them. The worst thing I would find is, even with clients that we had that might be in their 70s or 80s, we quickly learned that 11 or 12-point font was not going to cut it. We would jack it up to 14 or 16-point font. It looked obnoxious, but they're like, oh, I can finally see this. It was the smallest thing, but it made the biggest impact because they felt like, hey, they made it where I could actually understand this and feel comfortable with it.
Yep. I love that. Okay, 2 quick things, and then we'll get to our live Q&A. You have a really great guide that people can download if they want to. It's Stop Losing Prospects, 10 Conversation Mistakes Holding Back Your Success and How to Fix Them. Anything quick you want to say here?
One of the biggest ones, an advisor came up to me after an event about a month or so ago, and she was frustrated. She said, Derrick, if you had told me what you just said on stage 10 years ago, I probably could have 10x'd my business. What she realized was she was solving the problems of the prospect in the initial visit, and people were happy, but they left and then ghosted her and didn't come back to work with her, and she couldn't figure it out. And what I told her was, instead, you want to stir the problem, not solve the problem. The goal is, in the entire interaction before they sign paperwork to become a client, you want to agitate the concern. You want them to feel uneasy and uncertain about, if I don't work with you, I cannot have the life I want. I used to joke, no fee, no me. I
Mm.
became a brilliant financial advisor, Hillary. The moment people signed the fee paperwork and became a client, suddenly I had all the answers to their problems. It was amazing the transformation that occurred. But so many people want to give the aura of, hey, I know what's going on here. I can solve your problem. Even the smallest problem, simply ask them, is that something you'd like my help with?
Mm.
And that opens the door for, yes, I want your help with that.
Mhm.
Once they become a client, then you can truly impact their lives. Just answering random questions, you're solving their short term problem, but you might lose the opportunity to affect their entire family for generations to come, and you deserve better.
I love that. My last quick thing is if you're interested in case studies and you feel like that could, be a really value add for you during your discovery calls on your website, you can schedule a free case study consult with me here. But I don't want to take up any more time. I want to get to our live Q&A in case the people in the room have questions. I think you answered most of the questions that I saw beforehand, Derrick. Let me look at my notes quickly. But if anyone else has questions that they'd like to type into the chat, or you're welcome to come off mic as well, I can allow everybody in here to talk if they would like to. Let me scan my notes here. See if we had any other questions. Oh, actually, I thought this was interesting that I saw in the comments again earlier from a LinkedIn post last week. I think she was a financial coach rather than a financial advisor, but she said, she responded to my post when she talks about what she does. She said, I help women feel like an adult with money. And she uses that phrase because she's heard her clients use that exact phrase as well. She said even a 70-year-old told me once that she doesn't feel like an adult with
Mm.
money. How would you transform that into the how framework?
Well, first of all, I saw your post and I agree. When you can restate what someone told you and they affirm, that's the key. So, one thing to think about is you begin to put your you know how framework together, say it, and just see how people respond to it. If it's too complicated, if it's not landing, this is a work in progress, much like a political campaign. You think about somebody running for office, they always say, stay on message, stay on message. Your goal as an advisor is to stay on message with the problem you solve so people can consistently say, okay, that person owns that. If you think about run out of money, you got to go to this person. So
Mm.
that's what I think about. But when you think about, okay, so her scenario was we help, what was it?
We help women feel like an adult with money.
Women feel like an adult with money. I actually kind of like that because there's a uniqueness to it. Um, I would like to put in say to me one more time. I like to put an emotion in there.
I help women feel like an adult with money.
I help, I help. How are the women feeling currently? That's,
Mm-hmm.
I would ask, what would be an emotion they're feeling right now? I help uncertain. I help smart women
Mm-hmm.
feel like an adult with money. I would assign a word that labels how the woman is feeling right now, and then feel like an adult and confident with their
Mm-hmm.
money.
Mm-hmm.
And then put a transformational emotion on the end of that. But I like it because it's unique. That's the key, the uniqueness of it. And as long as people relate to it, then I think you're good. But if you can put an emotion in there, that'd be the key.
Yeah, I like it because it's unique as well. I like it because it's based on, things she's actually heard from real people. I worry that it could come across as a little condescending, perhaps. And so I think that you kind of qualifying it with the emotions and posing it as a question instead with the how statement. I wonder if that could solve that one reservation that I have.
Yeah, yeah. And,
Mhm.
and it could even be, I help smart women finally feel confident with their money.
Mhm.
Something where there's kind of the play on the thing there. But again, you don't want to be cute. The
Right.
key is just you want to state, for example, um, well, like on my website, I say I help advisors attract $3 million to $10 million prospects. That's it.
Yep.
And so it's very, very clear. So, okay, what does Derrick do? He helps advisors attract $3 million to $10 million prospects. Very, very clear. I teach you what to say and do so high net worth clients choose you.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
And
worked on that language a lot.
yeah, and I think that's important. That's a really important point to remember is the idea is not to be cute. It's not to be clever. It's not to be, no one else has ever said this particular thing before.
Right.
It's to be really, really clear, right? And I think that that's what people are worried about when they're crafting statements or scripts that they can use over and over and over again is it going to sound gimmicky because I'm trying to be cute or clever? But that's not the goal at all. The goal is to be clearer than you're currently being when you
Right.
say, I'm a financial advisor or I'm a wealth manager.
Yeah. So what I've done with clients in the past is if you take your five most recent, five favorite, almost like a grid, write their names down, and then write what was the problem they came to you to solve, how are they feeling, and how do they feel now? You begin to pull back. It's almost like a detective piecing the clues together. And
Mm,
you begin to see, okay, yeah, that's, there's a lot of these people are worried about the uncertainty of the future, or a lot of them have so many decisions to make, they're scared about making the wrong decision. A lot of these people have worked for 35 years and now they've got to make one pension election and it makes them nervous. So
mm,
all of that specificity, we specialize in working with, long-term employees who have to make critical retirement pension decisions and don't want to screw it up.
mm,
We help them fix that. I
mm,
mean, something where it's like, yeah, that's relatable.
mm,
So again, when you look at it, think of that as your focus group telling you, here are the problems that you might have known or didn't know, but that's what you're currently doing. And you have to decide, is that the path you want to stay on? Because you can easily course correct. We've had clients that have said, I've worked in the retirement space, but I really want to work with high earning software professionals. Okay, great. Well, let's then assess what are the concerns. And what I would tell you is if the couple was at home on a Friday night on their patio, sipping the beverage of their choice, and they're commenting about their money concerns, what are they saying?
mm,
And we make good money, but I feel like I'm losing my family.
mm,
We feel like we have it all, but our kids are growing up with parents who all we do is work. Like
mm,
I'm always on, and I can never just be myself at home. See, those are concerns people relate to. They're very emotional, but when you say them, like, yes, that's exactly how I feel.
mm. I love that. Well, Derrick, I think that, oh, I see some questions coming in.
Oh,
Oh, the
great.
chat is disabled, but people have been submitting QAs. I'm sorry, everybody.
I didn't
So,
see them either. I'm sorry, everybody.
yeah. So, okay, well, we have a couple. So, Tim says, hi there. I own a solo independent RIA in Lexington, Kentucky. I serve working professionals and business owners in central Kentucky. I help them explore all of the alternatives to leaving money in their checking account. Wonder if we could workshop that with Tim really quickly.
Okay, so Tim, it sounds like these are hardworking people. They've got money, but you're helping them move that money out of their checking account. Is that
I
okay?
believe so. I did just enable the chat so people can chat with us more easily if
Okay.
they're still in
And
here.
yeah, that's a unique, okay. So
Tim said that
based
was
on,
the intro
based
from an
on,
hour ago.
okay. Yeah, based on, you know how hardworking people, they keep all their money in cash. We help them stop, you know, we help them find ways to have their money work as hard for them as they did for it.
Mm,
Yeah, that's a unique one. I've not had that one before, but the key is those people feel safety in the checking account, but they probably don't know what other options are available to them.
mhm. Okay, Alex has a really good question. These concepts sound really good in a one-to-one conversation, but how do you address we're going to go around the room, say your name and what you do, and everyone else is giving one-word answers?
Well, I mean, okay, so you're probably like at a BNI group or like a networking group. That's where you have the opportunity to stand out,
Mm,
Alex. Because if you say financial advisor, engineer, salesperson, but you want to keep it short. And let's say, I don't know if Alex can say who he or she specializes in, but let's say, let's say it would be engineers. I work with engineers. We specialize in helping engineers not run out of money in retirement.
Mm.
So basically, instead of one word, you might have said 7 words, but people will remember, okay, you're the guy that works with engineers and keeps them from running out of money.
Hmm. Yeah. Because Alex also said, going into a spiel feels like you're taking up more room than you're allowed. I would argue you're allowed to take up 7 words. Are you allowed to take up even 60 seconds? No. But
Yeah.
7 words, I think would be 10 seconds or under.
Yeah. And Alex, what I would, again, the mentality I want you to leave this webinar with is you are the financial doctor and you have the medicine for America's financial pain. And when you say those words in a caring, empathetic, just tone, like it just irritates you, the fact that I can't help more people, people say, wow, he really cares about what he's doing.
Mm. Stacy asked, how could you do this in a social media setting that isn't a one-to-one?
Yeah. So social media is great. So think of your how becomes your hook. It's your top line of your LinkedIn post. It might be on Instagram. You know how insert who you want to target uh, worries about running out of money, worries about making the wrong decision, worries about having to go back to work because they lost everything. Question mark. We help fix that second line. And then you're right into it.
And I think what this does, I think about this being as kind of your core, you have your core messaging, right? This is the problem we solve. This is who we solve it for, and this is how we solve it. And so you adapt it to these different situations, with the one-to-one being one situation, your website being another place where your core messaging lives, right? Your social media posts being another way to keep that same core message, but you talk about it in different ways, right? Or maybe you use
Yes.
different words. Mhm.
Yeah, even down here. Okay, so I see, okay, he says white collar professionals like lawyers and engineers. Yeah, yeah, okay. So one of the things that you can do, everyone likes to be called hardworking or high earning, or they make good money. So for example, Alex, one thing, and again, you could pick one of these, but if you want to say, how engineers, they make good money, but they worry about if they're making the smart decisions for their financial future. We help them fix that.
Mm.
Or how hardworking attorneys, they spend more time caring about their clients than their own financial lives. We help them fix that. See, it's almost a compliment. They're hardworking. They care about something else so much, almost like teachers. So many hardworking teachers, they care about their lesson plans. Oh, this is so good. They care about their lesson plans more than their financial plans. Oh, that's so good. We help them fix that. When you can rhyme it is even better. Sorry. I had a moment there.
Derrick loves messaging.
Oh man. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Okay.
Tim has one final question. If any more come in, that's great. But one final question that we have for now is, Tim says, how do you work around the problem where people don't know the how question? Tim, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this alludes to kind of what I was saying. Whereas if I say, how financial advisors really struggle with XYZ, and the person I'm talking to is a doctor and says, no, I don't know that. Is that your question, Tim? Yes.
Is
Mhm.
that okay?
Mhm.
Yeah. So the key with this is testing this. And you can test, I mean, what I would do is this is all research and development. Okay, Tim, so you can try this out and say, hey, let me tell you who I work with and see if this makes sense. And then just let people know, I work with hardworking people who keep all their money in checking and they're nervous about other investments. We help them give we help give them peace of mind. Something where it's pretty specific.
And Derrick, let me just ask you this as this is coming to mind, because I see the real concern here that this is gimmicky. I'm taking more up space than I'm allowed, things like that. So I almost wonder if something like Well, I'm a financial advisor. Let me tell you about who I work with and see if it makes sense. And you kind of invite the conversation that way instead of just, you know, launching into something someone may or may not grasp onto.
Yeah, see, and again, I only say this because I've tested this as a former advisor myself. That you've got to go in with you know how, because
Mm,
you know how that wording, I selected it carefully because it infers the person will know how. You know how when you take your car to the mechanic, you often feel like you're getting taken advantage of. It leads the person into you're likely going to understand what I'm about to tell you.
mm,
So you know how, and then you want them to say, so what are you in finance or yeah I work as a so if you say financial advisor, I think it just dismisses the next piece because we're
mm,
talking about the same amount of words. It's just a different way to phrase it. So
mhm.
not again. I realize we're out of time here, but this has been super productive.
Yes, this has. I'm going to send out the replay later this afternoon to everyone. If you have final questions, I'll make sure to share them with Derrick. And we may put together, like a little collaborative article or something that we can post on LinkedIn answering all the questions if we get them. So thank you so much, everyone, for sharing a portion of your day with us. It was a delight.
Hillary, thanks for having me too. Bye, everybody.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks. Bye.